It's Friday night. Your phone lights up. Another group chat, another dinner plan, another loud room full of small talk. You stare at the screen for a moment. You're not angry. You're not busy. You're just tired. So you type something polite. Sorry, I can't make it tonight. You put your phone down. The room gets quiet again, and strangely enough, you feel relief. Real relief. But then a familiar thought shows up in the back of your mind. Is something wrong with me? Because everyone else seems to love this stuff. The parties, the constant messages, the busy weekends, the endless social energy. Meanwhile, you're perfectly content spending a night reading, thinking, or simply existing in silence. And after a while, you start wondering if maybe you're doing life wrong. Maybe you should have more friends. Maybe you should be more social. Maybe you're missing something everyone else seems to understand. But here's something most people never learn. Having few friends or genuinely enjoying being alone doesn't automatically mean something is broken. In fact, psychologists have been studying this for decades, and the picture is far more complicated than more friends equals a healthier life. Researchers often point out that we confuse two completely different experiences: loneliness and solitude. They sound similar, but psychologically, they're not the same thing. Loneliness is painful. It's the feeling that your need for connection isn't being met, that heavy sense of being unseen, even when people are physically around you. But solitude is different. Solitude is chosen. It's the mental space where your mind finally slows down, where you don't have to perform, where you don't have to explain yourself, where you don't have to keep up with anyone else's energy. And for some people, that space feels natural, not uncomfortable, not empty, just calm. Tools like the UCLA Loneliness Scale show something interesting. Two people can have the same number of friends and feel completely different inside. Because the real question isn't how many people are in your life. The real question is, do you feel emotionally connected to them? Now here's where things get psychologically interesting. If you're someone who's comfortable with solitude, you might recognize a few patterns about yourself. In conversations, you often listen more than you talk. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you're actually paying attention. You notice small things: the hesitation before someone answers, the shift in their tone, the way their expression changes mid-sentence. Your brain quietly picks up signals most people overlook. Psychologists sometimes call this high social awareness. And it means something important. You're not disconnected from people. If anything, you may be noticing more than most. But that level of awareness comes with a cost. Because when 10 people are talking at once, your brain isn't just hearing noise. It's tracking emotions, intentions, subtle reactions, micro expressions, all at the same time. That kind of mental processing burns energy. So when the night ends and you finally step back into silence, your mind exhales. You might also notice something else. What happens after conversations? You replay them, not obsessively, but carefully. You think about what someone meant. You think about what you said. Sometimes you even rewrite the conversation in your head. Maybe you reread messages before replying. Maybe you pause for a long time before sending a text. Psychologists sometimes call this rumination when it becomes unhelpful. But there's another side to it that people rarely talk about. Reflection. Reflection is when your brain reviews experiences in order to understand them. It's how people learn emotional patterns. It's how emotional intelligence develops. And interestingly, people who spend more time alone often develop stronger reflective habits because silence creates space for it. When your environment is constantly full of noise, notifications, conversations, and stimulation, Your brain rarely has time to process what just happened. But when you're alone, your mind starts connecting dots. This is also where creativity lives. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network. It's the mental state that activates when your brain isn't focused on external tasks, when you're walking alone, sitting quietly, or staring out the window without a clear goal. In that space, your brain starts exploring ideas, connecting memories, generating insights. That's why many writers, inventors, and deep thinkers throughout history spent long periods in solitude, not because they disliked people, but because solitude gave their minds room to work. Of course, there's an important balance here. Enjoying solitude doesn't mean you're immune to loneliness. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that long-term perceived isolation can affect mood, cognition, and even physical health. So the real question isn't, do you have friends? The real question is something quieter. Do you feel connected to the people you do have in your life? Because people who prefer smaller circles often invest more deeply in the relationships they keep. Instead of spreading attention across dozens of acquaintances, they focus on a few meaningful connections, quality over quantity. The people in their lives get the real version of them, not the performance, not the social mask. And relationships built on genuine understanding tend to be more emotionally stable over time. Being comfortable in your own company isn't a social flaw. In many ways, it's psychological independence, the ability to regulate your emotions without constant distraction, the ability to enjoy your inner world, the ability to think deeply about what matters to you. Some people recharge through interaction, others recharge through reflection. Different nervous systems, different psychological rhythms. Neither one is better. The real win is alignment. A life that matches how your mind actually works. So if you've ever looked at your small circle of friends and wondered whether you're somehow falling behind in life, you might be measuring yourself with the wrong ruler. Human connection isn't a competition. And psychological well-being doesn't come from the number of people in your contacts list. Sometimes it comes from something quieter, a few people who truly understand you, and the rare ability to be comfortable inside your own mind. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing. This channel explores the psychology behind everyday thoughts and behaviors. And if you'd like to support more deep dives like this, you can also join the channel. Either way, thank you for being here. Because sometimes the quiet isn't something to escape. It's where you finally become yourself.